Section 9.2 parabolas, these are all going to be, the vertex for all of these is going to be at 0, 0 for all these. So you've got two choices. You've got either y equals ax squared, which is what you're used to from the beginning of the year, or you might also solve it this way and get x equals ay squared. So you don't see the h and the k because we're not shifting it right, left, up, down. It's always, the vertex is always at 0, 0. Tomorrow we'll shift it. So those are your two choices. If it's this choice, y equals x squared, then if a is positive, it'll open up. If a is negative, it'll open down. So that's just review. And then here, though, if it's x equals y squared, if a is positive, which direction does it open? It's different, to the right. And if a is negative, it opens to the left, which is what you would think. And then I'll put this right in the middle because it applies to both. If you already knew this, if a is small, meaning the absolute value is between 0 and 1, that's how you write that mathematically. So it could be like a third, a fourth, a sixth, 3/4, 7/8, any of those. It's going to open wider. And if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, it'll be skinnier. That stretches it vertically. So it's I should say narrow, wide, narrow. Why do I use the absolute value of a? So I don't have to worry about the negative. Yeah, the sign. Right. So the sign tells us what direction it opens. The magnitude of a tells us if it's wide or narrow. Okay, so that's all you need to know. So we'll do 4 examples that open each direction, and I'll show you the easiest way that I can think of to do this. So graph number 1 is, let's say it's x squared. Let's put it in a different form. X squared equals 1/3 y. Okay. And we want to graph that. The only thing that all requires like 3 clear points. And you already know one of them is the vertex at 0, 0. So that's taken care of. Which one is this, or in what direction does it open? Is it y equals ax squared or x equals ay squared? Is it that one? It is, right? Even though it's not, it doesn't look like it right away, it's still y equals x squared. Let's make it look that way because doing your table will be way easier. So get y alone. So you would basically do what to each side? Multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3. Yeah. So and then you can just flip the side. So it's basically this. Now if I just multiply each side, I can show it here. Multiply each side by the reciprocal, which is 3/1. And those simplify. That's what I get. Now I know it opens up. And is it wide or skinny or narrow? So let's write the info. Opens what direction? Opens up. And wide or narrow? And it is narrow. Nice. Yeah. So it opens up because that's a is positive 3, and it's narrow because it's greater than 1. A is greater than 1. And so then we just make a little table. And the easiest thing to try, this is rule of thumb, if you remember anything big picture, whenever you don't know what a graph looks like, make a table. So what's really easy to plug in for x? 0. Yeah, we'll get to that, but the easiest thing is 0, right? Because 0 squared times 3 is 0, so 0, 0. And that's just going to be a given today, because all the vertices are at 0, 0. And then what's the next easiest number to plug in? Yeah, and you can actually plug in 1 or -1. You see how you get the same answer? Whether you plug in 1 or -1, you're going to square it and then multiply by 3. So you'll get 3 and 3. And that's all we have to do, sketch our graph, is just plot those points. 0, 0. We know it opens up. That's really helpful. 1, 3, and negative 1, 3 are here and here. And you can kind of see that the reason it makes it narrower is because these y values are 3 times as big as they normally would be. So of course it sort of stretches it vertically. And that is that. So let's try one that's different than what you've seen. I think the hardest part is getting it in the standard form. Y squared equals negative 3x. So if we look at the forms, which one is that? First of all, is it this side or this side? Is it up, down, or is it right, left? Yeah, it's right, left. So because the thing you're not used to being squared is squared. You've never seen them like this. It's always y equals x squared. But now it's x equals y squared. So let's get it in that form. How can I get rid of the negative 3? What should I do to each side? We get negative 1/3, yeah. Multiply each side by negative 1/3, yeah. And that'll make this simplify to just 1 on the right. So you just get x equals negative 1/3 y squared. But to make it really easy, let's always put the single degree on the left and the squared term on the right. I just flipped it. It's an equation, so I just moved it the other way. Now this will make it easy to plug in to our table. So what's the easiest thing to plug in for y? Now we're plugging it in for y. So what's easy to plug in for y? Well, let's get the 0, 0 out of the way. We know that works. It's always going to work today. And then what would be easy to plug in for y here?
1.
Okay, if that would be totally fine if you did 1, but can you see the answer is going to turn out to be negative 1/3? So can you think of something that makes it even easier to graph?
3.
Yeah, the 3's. Yeah, because when you square the 3, you'll get 9, and then you'll divide it by 3. Yeah. So we want to do 3 and negative 3. It's not wrong to do the other things in your table. It's perfectly fine. But if you want it to be easy to graph, try to find something easy. So that you get 9 here when you square it, and then 1/3 of it is dividing by 3. So you're always going to get a negative answer though, right? Because you square it, that's positive, and then you multiply by a negative. So you always get. Sorry, I did the wrong side. So you plug in 3 or negative 3 for y. We're always going to plug in for y when it looks like this. So that gives us negative 3 each time for our answers. Sorry, I messed that up. So let's graph that. Let's see how it goes. We know it opens to the which way? Before we even graph it, what do we know it opens to the? Remember it's right or left already because it's x equals y squared. So is it right or left? It's left because of the a is negative. So we know it opens left. That's going to help us graph it. So we know it opens left because of that negative. So let's plot these points. Oh, is it wide or narrow? Yeah, it's wider because 1/3 is a fraction between 0 and 1. So we got 0, 0. We got negative 3. Negative 3, 3, and negative 3, negative 3. So it just opens wider and to the left. Just something you haven't seen before. Is that a function? Nope. Does not pass the verb. Doesn't mean we can't graph it though. So couple more examples. So let's try y squared minus 2x equals 0. That doesn't look at all like one of the forms we have. But we can make it. Which form do we want to make it into? Y equals x squared or x equals y squared? Yeah, x equals y squared because there's an x and a y squared. So we basically got to solve for x. So we get the y squared out of the way, subtract y squared from each side. That's out of the way. Divide by -2. So you have positive 1/2 y squared. That's something really weird. That was an x, yes. So x equals 1/2 y squared. Okay. So let's put the info about it. It opens up, down, right, left. If it's x equals y squared, which category is it? Yeah, and it's right because a is positive. Awesome. So it opens right. And it's kind of wider than the parent graph. So it opens right. All right, so let's do that over here. Let's try to pick some values for y. Remember, you're plugging in for y. It's easier to do it that way. So we got 0, 0. We already know that works today. I'll plot 0, 0 right there. What would be good for y to plug in?
2.
Yeah, 2 and -2. Yeah. So don't make the mistake I made. Put it on the right side. We're plugging in for y. We're picking anything we want for y. 2 or -2. Plug it in. 2 squared is 4 divided by times a half is 2. And then this -2 squared is 4 times a half is also positive 2. You can use your calculator for that if you want. So it goes, so we plot the point 2, 2 and 2, -2, and you can see how it opens to the right. 2, -2. And there it goes, opens to the right. So I think we should be good with that unless you want to see another example. Okay.